Quinn Ewers made, I think unintentionally, a little bit of noise at the Manning Passing Academy. Was doing an interview. Someone asked him, hey, how do you feel about being everybody's biggest game in the SEC? And so he kind of teed him up a little bit for him to answer this question. I don't think it was a bad question by any stretch of the imagination, but Quinn Ewers then doubled down and says, yeah, we're excited about it. We're used to it. But he said the words that really, I think, social media ran with, we're going to be everybody's biggest game. Is that true? How do SEC fans feel about that? We'll talk about it right now. But hey, if you're watching right now during the live show, thank you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you're a Texas fan, seeing this video a little bit later on, if you're a fan of anyone in college football, you just love the game, period, make sure you're subscribed right here. College football, year-round, we got you covered. Talking ball the way that you want to talk ball, from game breakdowns to previews to recruiting to the portal to the way that modern college football is shifting. Like, this is your spot. No hot takes. No trying to make headlines. Like, just purely college football the way that we all enjoy it. So if that's you, make sure you're locked in right here. We appreciate you for that by subscribing. So when Quinn Ewers said we're going to be everybody's biggest game, the people from different schools in the SEC came out with knives and pitchforks and torches and said, no, you're not. Are you kidding? Y'all think you're the biggest game in town. That's what you think. Newsflash, buddy. We play Georgia. We don't like them. They're going to be preseason number 1. We play Alabama. They're still a Death Star of an operation. Y'all think you're our biggest game? Give me a break. And so I think what people are saying there isn't inauthentic. I think they genuinely mean what they're saying. But I also think that to have a reaction that strong, does that not tell us something? Like, remember when we were, kids in grade school and someone would say something to you and they would say something kind of nasty or kind of mean. You'd go home and tell your parents if you were soft like me, and they'd say, well, hey, they're just responding that way to you. They're giving you that kind of an emotional reaction because actually you maybe pricked a sensitive part in their emotions. Maybe you kind of struck a nerve there. I think that probably is something that is worth being mentioned in this whole discussion with the response that Quinn Ewers got from saying that we're going to be everybody's biggest game moving into the SEC. Because it's true. Like, they're not Georgia. They're not Alabama. They're not like a traditional rival for a lot of these schools. But if I'm Kentucky, this is not, so specific to say that it's, exclusive to these schools. But if I'm a school like a Kentucky who plays Texas this year, like a Mississippi State, I don't want to lose to Texas. I want to beat them just as bad as I want to beat every other school on our schedule. I want to beat them just as bad as every other SEC school. In fact, if I'm those schools or any other school in the SEC that plays Texas this year, I want to beat them even more because they're the new kid on the block. What does it say about you if the school that is new to the SEC, which has been touted, and I believe still is rightly touted, as the greatest conference in college football, most difficult? I mean, the NFL lines up with that as well, with how many draft picks they take from this conference. Like, if Texas walks in there day one and beats the brakes off you, whoever you are, that's not a good look. That's not a good look if the new kid walks in day one and beats you up, especially when we've had this discussion for a long time around how good the SEC is. Also, let's just call a spade here, doesn't necessarily reflect well on the conference. And I think some of that gets blown out of proportion. Like, there's going to be a lot of folks here if Texas has success year one or Oklahoma has success year one. The SEC, man, you had those two schools walk in there the first day and tear it up. Okay, I hear what you're saying. I understand the thought behind that. I just think good football is good football regardless of what logo you have on your helmet, so we'll leave that there. But I will say this. There's extra fuel to the fire in Quinn Ewers saying that we're going to be everybody's biggest game, because Texas hasn't dodged or shied away from any of the smoke since they were in the Big 12. Like, they went into Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and we were there. We saw it in person. They were running out the clock, up 10, driving, running the football. Now, that Alabama team, I believe they got better over the course of that season, but so did Texas. Like, there was nothing fluky about what they did out there that night in Tuscaloosa. They made a statement against, by nature of how they finished in the postseason, the best team in the SEC in Alabama. Like, what Texas is doing now, walking into this conference, there used to be a thought around Texas of, they're always overhyped. People just give them extra optimism because of clicks and their fan base that has a lot of emotion. So they just kind of cater to them. Y'all, nobody's doing that. Texas is not just like the school that has extra juice because they're Texas. They have extra juice because they've now put it on the field based on Steve Sarkisian being the head coach and based on the roster he's put together out there. Like last year wasn't fluky by any stretch of the imagination. They played a real physical brand of football. They'll have to replicate that in the SEC, but what they did last year, if that is truly the formula they're going to stick to and they can replicate, like Texas is going to be a problem for everybody in the SEC. And again, it is no fun when someone comes to your place of residence, the Southeastern Conference, and walks in there and beats you. It's embarrassing. It is. It is like someone coming over to your kitchen and making a better meal than you, getting on your grill, making a better steak than you. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't look good. And so I think the idea that Texas is going to be everybody's biggest game, will they be the highest ranked team every single team in the SEC plays? Remains to be seen. That game October 19th should tell us a lot about what Texas is going to be in 2024, be a good litmus test for them as a roster when they play Georgia in Austin. But I do think it's not unfair to say that it might be one of the most emotional games that any team on the SEC slate has on their schedule. Like, I think if Texas shows up to your place or you go to Texas, you want to teach them a thing or two about the SEC. And the reality is, like, people are going to try and squeeze Texas. They are. But when you get squeezed, just with anything in life, when there's pressure applied or adversity or obstacles, whatever it is, that's when you find out what a school or an individual or insert whatever noun you want there, that's when you find out who they really are. And so I think this year is going to be a lot of fun for us as college football fans. I think the banter between Texas and the rest of the SEC and Oklahoma, too, quite frankly, is going to be legendary. One more thing worth noting here. This isn't like new territory for Texas to be, a big game for a lot of folks. And I don't say that in a condescending way to any other school, but like Texas at a national level, the reputation has been, those fans are just delusional. They think they deserve something because of the logo. They're really loud. I think that's a little bit misunderstood. I think Texas fans, the core Texas fan base, is really pretty honest about who they are and pretty honest about what they expect from their football team. But the reality is Texas is one of the largest living alumni in America. And so when you have a lot of people, the volume on your team gets turned up quite a bit. And so when you have a lot of volume, you get some loud voices. Those are the ones that get the microphone, and those are the ones that on Twitter and for different platforms speak for your fan base. So all that's to say, they've been circled for a lot of folks for a long time because of the noise they have around them, because of their brand, because of all that. Going to the SEC, it's same song, second verse. Now it's going to be a different beast now in the SEC. Don't get it twisted. It'll be a different gauntlet to run. But I can't wait for it. I think Texas is ready for it. I think Quinn Ewers is ready for it. I have no problem with him saying that. I understand the reaction it got, but it just means that we're that much closer to college football season, that we're having stories like this be discussed. I'm looking over the horizon saying, media days, almost here. Week 1, almost here. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.